You're watching Soul Sisters on Pure Soul, powered by Isaac Hayes on Dash Radio. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Mo, we got Mo on the line.
Hey, my baby, this is me and Sidney. How y'all doing?
How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Wonderful.
So, did you hear what we were talking about? Did you hear anything
I
about
just
what we
got
were
it
talking
briefly, baby.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about gender and color bias, equal pay in the workplace, and we just briefly mentioned what what you've been discussing. I'm sure you're probably talking to you blue in the face about this for the last 2 weeks, but we just kind of would like a little insight, or just say what you want to say about it right quick. This is Keisha.
Well, I think that the whole thing was some people were saying, "Hey, Monique, did you have to do it the way you did it to bring attention to it?" Mm-hmm. And my answer is yes.
Yes.
Because it's been going on for so long, since the beginning of black entertainment, that when you look at 2018 and we're still in a place of saying, can you pay me not more, but not less?
Right.
Can you just pay me fairly?
Right.
And we're still dealing with that right now. And the reason why we said we wanted to call in, because, Keisha, I've talked to your mother.
Yes.
Who is a legend, an icon, and we've had a beautiful conversation where your mom made me feel like, even a few years ago when I talked to her, baby, always stay in your position. Because when I watch your mom on YouTube, baby, she was saying it.
Yes, she was. You better believe it.
And she was unapologetic about it.
Yes.
So when I watch women like that's come before me, we have no other choice but to take a stand that we're taking right now.
I agree.
To say at what point does it stop?
Right. I agree. I absolutely agree with you. What do you say to people who feel like, say with the Netflix situation, that Netflix is basically, they want what they consider the hottest thing, that what's new on the block right now, and not necessarily looking at, what you've achieved already and how long you've been in the business, but who's hot right now. And maybe that's the reason why Monique was offered was lowballed the way she was.
That's a great point. But if I may say, the finish line always gets moved.
Come on. Yeah.
Because at first it was, well, you have to have the resume to make the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you look at the resume, somebody would say, well, how much more of a resume can you have?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I say this humbly, I've put in the work for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now when your agents and your managers tell you that I've had years ago, we're going to get them the next time. Because you just got to keep building that resume.
So when is the next
now
time
you get here with the resume, and now they say, you only had a movie that came out in 2016. It's 2018, and we know it's January.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't have 2 movies come out last year, well, then that makes you irrelevant. Are we going to buy that?
That's right. I agree with you.
So, Monique, this is Heather Hayes. And
hey, Heather Hayes.
Hi, how are you? So I had just made a point, because I agree and I disagree with you.
Okay.
The point is especially because I've seen so much online about Amy Schumer and, yourself. And I said personally, for me, I would prefer to see a Monique Netflix special. That's just my personal preference. And I know companies like that, they do look at who's hot right now. I don't think that it's right. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we don't, whether it be movies, television, and music, in a lot of cases, this is why we don't have the quality that we have, because we live in a microwave generation where they don't care if you have a long-lasting career, you have a career of longevity. It's like, is she going to sell the tickets today, and then they just throw them out after that? So I think that to me what I was thinking when Netflix, that's the reason that they gave. And I understand that the line always moves. I think the line always moves for everybody. But I feel like that's what we're dealing with now. This is just where we are. I mean, and for the same reason as we have a reality star as a president. He doesn't have qualifications to be a president.
Sister Heather, you make a great point. And I would ask you, how long was Dave Chappelle on a hiatus?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking Sister Heather, how long did Dave Chappelle take a hiatus?
It was almost 4 or 5. It was a long hiatus, 4 or 5 years almost, I would say.
Okay. So when Brother Dave came back from his hiatus, he was offered $20 million.
Yes.
So when you say, well, the industry we're in, if you're not hot right now, that's what they base it off of. Well, what did they base Dave's off of?
But don't you, like, when it comes to companies like Netflix that are different from, I feel like when it comes to like movie houses and things like that, Paramount, those are specific people making those decisions based upon their opinion. Netflix, I would think, because it's the newer kind of outlet for movies, that they're looking at strictly numbers, not maybe a personal decision like, this is my opinion. Because again, like I said, I would prefer to see you as opposed to Amy Schumer, but maybe they know something I don't know numerically.
But see, Dave Chappelle doesn't he have a Netflix? He has several specials on Netflix.
Yeah,
so,
they did.
So it's not a Paramount or movie house thing.
No, what I'm saying is I feel like Netflix would just strictly look at numbers, period.
Numbers?
So you make a great point, because also in their movie house is 2 of my comedy specials, which is I Could Have Been Your Cellmate and Shaq All-Star Comedy Roast, which they've had for some years now. So you make a great point, but my question to you is, Heather, what makes me different from Dave Chappelle? Because if Dave Chappelle took and I believe it was longer than that, but let's say we'll give it 5 years. If Dave Chappelle took a 5-year hiatus, now I've never taken a hiatus. I'm a stand-up comedian. That's always what I said I was. I said, folks call me an actress, but that's never what I signed up for. I'm a stand-up comedian. So though you hadn't seen me on TV, I never stopped being a stand-up comedian. And then when you go back and you say, well, in 2016, there was a hit movie out called Almost Christmas. And I believe right before then, there was a movie out that we got nominated for, HBO, called Bessie.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I hear my sister say that, well, you know how this business is. You're only, for black people, it's what have you done for me lately? For white people, it's you're only as good as your last project.
Right.
So when you're making your point, Heather, I get it, but I have to ask you again, and not for you to compare, well, we understand the business. I'm asking you because Dave Chappelle took a 5-year plus hiatus.
Right.
And he came back, and he was offered $20 million. What's different about Dave Chappelle than Monique when I've never taken a hiatus?
So check this out, Monique. We want to put Isaac Hayes III is here in the studio with us as well, and I think this is kind of what jump-started the us asking you to come on the show. So Isaac Hayes.
Hello, Mo.
Hey, baby, how you doing? And Isaac Hayes, I want to introduce you to my husband, Sidney.
Hey, Sidney, how you doing?
I'm doing super. How you doing?
Great.
Sidney.
Hey.
So this all started, I think, when we had our dialogue, or I said what I said about your Netflix special and why it didn't go down. And I kind of want to take your argument and kind of dissect it, because what I feel like has happened with you is you've taken a lot of issues, and I think some of them are very, very valid issues, especially pay equality, but you've kind of lumped a lot of things together. And I think for people that are trying to understand what you're trying to accomplish, they take issue with parts of your argument that don't necessarily fold in. So I want to kind of go in order and say, first and foremost, I think you're both a great comedian and a great actress, right? So when you say you're the most decorated comedian alive, that is a little misleading, because you got an Oscar for a dramatic role. And so you are a top-notch decorator. You can get no higher than an Oscar for your role in Precious, right? So if you take your Oscar and your dramatic awards and remove them from your comedic resume, then your comedic resume has awards, but it's separated from your dramatic resume. So if Netflix said, hey, we want to do a dramatic role, we want to do Aretha Franklin, Madam C.J. Walker, some black icon in a Netflix movie, and they offered you $500,000, you can lay that Oscar down on the table and say, no, I'm worth way more than that because I'm an Academy Award-winning actress. No, give me $5-10 million for that. Yes, let's do that. So that number one, that argument gets put to the side. Now let's talk about Dave Chappelle and
No.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Because you made a point, so it should be addressed.
Okay, go ahead.
Despite the fact that she considers herself a comedian, she won an Academy Award.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is the award is in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take and deduct it, or you can take it and you can add it into the equation. The choice is yours. It's the equivalent of someone saying, "Why did you just hit me?" And the person replies, "I want to chop the tree down." And you look at them and says, "I want to chop the tree down." And they say, "Yeah, any excuse will do." So my point is, any excuse will do. But what happens is, when you look at her as a comedian in the entertainment industry, she has won more awards as a female comedian than anyone else. Now, here's where it gets really good, because I like individuals like you who like to dissect things. In the world that we live in, how many times have you heard Michael Jordan compared to Cheryl Swoops?
Well, you haven't. But let's.
It's a quick question.
No, you haven't.
How many times have you heard Michael Jordan compared to Cheryl Swoops in terms of what he did in his realm and what Cheryl did in her realm?
Well, Mike, okay.
Because everywhere you go, the ladies are categorized as the ladies, and the men are categorized as the men.
I don't disagree with
that.
that.
Inequality comes from because of the compartmentalization of the men and women. Would you not agree?
I don't disagree with that, Sidney, but what I disagree with is Michael Jordan is a perfect example that I would like to use. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA titles, right?
Yes,
he
sir.
has 6 rings. He has a basketball resume of anybody. As soon as he went and joined the Birmingham Barons, he can't ask for Chicago Bulls money because now he's in a different. He's in sports, but he's in a different lane. Comedy is a different lane than drama. They are separate genres, as in sports.
What I'm saying to you is, though, I'll to your point, what is it about Melissa McCarthy that makes her funnier than Monique?
I don't think. Well, if we want to use comedians as an example, right? And we let's stick to the Amy Schumers and the Dave Chappelles. I don't want to talk about people that aren't necessary.
Well, you're mentioning. My point is, if you're going to mention acting, okay, and you're going to compartmentalize her and not be able to understand that, despite the fact that she won 4 dramatic awards, everyone knows she's a comedic actor.
Right.
When you win the Academy Award and Golden Globe and BAFTA, it increases your stock across the board. Yeah. If you are a stage performer, it would increase your stock if it's negotiated right. It's just depending upon who you hear from. As an example, where you find and you take exception to what Monique is doing as a man of color, there are white men who are stomping adamantly and saying to the black men, "What is wrong with you guys? What are you not seeing?" So my point to you is, it depends upon how you look at things, and this is really not so much about color from a social standpoint as to who grasp it. It's about the consciousness, because when you have white men asking the black people, how can you compare Monique to this woman, and they're white, because they're saying what we are afraid to say. See, we have to do everything perfectly because we know how it is, and I'm putting the air quotes up.
Yes.
And we keep hearing, "Yeah, Monique, we know that you're right, but we know how it is." Well, if we know how it is and we know it's not right, let's not argue about the fact of the method. Let's concern ourselves with the fact that it's not right.
I don't disagree with that, Sidney. I don't disagree with that at all.
Hurting females in the community. And we as black men, it is very important that we stand by our black women, because they're at the bottom of the pyramid, and they're so much at the bottom of the pyramid, they themselves begin to normalize the inequalities and justify it, good sir. So I get your point, but I'm just saying that it is just that. It is an opinion, but it's staggering and baffling when I have, what is this brother's name? Nashville Larry, who is
he got the talk show in Nashville. White guy, old opera guy.
When we see Bernie and Sid, 2 white men, one staunch Republican and one Democrat, and they're saying Amy Schumer is a hack. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. And I would dare not say that about her because we're not looking to tear anyone down to lift Monique up.
That's right.
But what we're saying is when they say we would give you a 9 to 10, when they say we would that people walked out on her show, when the gentleman from Netflix had said in our interaction that we don't count resumes because it does not translate at Netflix, because I believe someone had spoken earlier about them looking at things from a numerical standpoint. So I wanted to address that briefly. And I really appreciate you being kind enough, Brother Isaac, to listen. And all of you. When Robbie Paul over at Netflix said that Monique's resume did not translate and that the technique that they used was called a anticipatory approach. And I asked them, can you please tell me what your anticipatory approach is? Because it sounds a bit subjective, but please, share with me, especially as it pertains to Ms. Schumer. He said, well, the anticipatory approach is when we believe that based upon what the talent has done, that we can anticipate what they're going to do. So, for instance, how we gave Amy the deal that we did, she sold out Madison Square Garden twice. And she had a big movie that was coming out this summer. That movie was called Snatched, and just by the by, it made $4 million. It made $46 million on a $42 million budget. But this is the big movie. Now, what I would ask you is, when that gentleman ran down Madison Square Garden and the big movie, what he said to me was her resume.
No, that's not.
Monique, he said it didn't translate.
No, that's not. But
when
that's
I spoke about her movies, he said movies. Why does my client not translate, but you're using the same metrics for Amy to say why you gave her what you gave her?
But that's not resume, Sidney. That's engagement. And it's a totally different argument. Hold on.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me speak. Let me speak for 1 second.
Engagement, sir?
Well, let me.
It is something that you have done that is going to apply to your resume.
But hold on. Let me speak for a second because I'll let you speak. So let me double back again to Dave and Amy, right? And I understand that Dave got paid $20 million and whatever they offered Amy. So and to the guy in Nashville and to Bernie Sanders and all those gentlemen, I'd first like to say, more than likely, without even coming at them in that way, more than likely they're a little bit out of touch with the way things are done now. The way the youth and the millennials in this country engage entertainment. We don't watch TV. Everybody's on their phone, right? So right now, let me refer to Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle got offered $20 million to do two or three Netflix specials. 2 years ago, I saw Dave Chappelle in person. He sold out 3 or 4 shows in Atlanta, went around the country. Last year, I saw Dave Chappelle in person. He sold out all of his shows. He did about 10 shows in New York and went around. And then on top of that, he did Saturday Night Live. And the ratings were the highest ratings that Saturday Night Live has ever had. So Dave Chappelle did the work. He went around and toured and created the engagement and the demand for Netflix to supply him that amount of money. Now, if Monique had done the same thing and went around, hold on.
This is all I want to ask you.
No, hold on. If Monique had done the same thing, hold on. Let me finish.
Check to see what Monique has been doing.
No. I shouldn't have to.
Well, it's important because you're
it's not important.
Her touring.
No, but listen.
You're speaking about what she did. If she had done the same thing that Dave had done. No.
The internet does not. You do not engage. Listen, engagement does not happen where you have to look for it. Dave Chappelle finds those opportunities. Don't nobody look for that.
If you may allow me for a second.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the part for me. I gotta be real with y'all.
Yeah.
That's disheartening. Because as you said, let me dissect it. Let me break it down. And then you say, well, those white men, they out of touch. Because you've already made up your mind that this black woman doesn't deserve it. See,
no, I have not,
when you say, let me take the award away that she got for doing drama, I still want you to add them up, Isaac. I still want you to add it up. And as I said to everybody that's questioning it, do it for yourself. Don't take my word. Do it for yourself. So what is disheartening? That even when you got facts in front of you, even when you're hearing that Amy Schumer's movie made $4 million profit, Almost Christmas made a $25 million profit, and you're saying, well, Sidney, that's engagement. Okay, Brother Isaac. See, when people come to us, I need you to know your facts, because for the last 6 years, I've been selling out around this country. I've been selling out around this country. Now, as we know, Saturday Night Live gave a black woman an opportunity for the first time, last year? And it made major news. Major news. So don't talk like, oh, Monique, you were offered the same opportunity, because we know the game. But as I sit here, brother, and I listen to you, and when y'all use words like dissect, ether, put the hammer down, these are my brothers. These are my brothers. And see, when I know your daddy's story, when management went and did things and they didn't have your father's permission to do it, but they still went ahead and they did it. And that was a problem for Isaac Hayes' family. I read that story. So when I sit here and I'm defending myself to Isaac Hayes' son, who is a legend, who your daddy kicked down doors, I wish somebody would tell your daddy, we know you got all them awards over there for soul, but your ass can't do no country. And if you do, we're going to start you at the bottom. Your father wouldn't accept that.
No, I think my father, I think absolutely my
should.
father would accept it. We got Yama here that wants to actually say something as well.
Hi, Monique. This is Yama Brown. I just
Hey, Yama.
Hey, how are you? I just wanted to ask you, initially, you asked for everybody to boycott Netflix. So my question is, do you still feel that approach is the best, and what can we do from this point?
We feel that approach was great, because what it did was what it's doing right now. I am on y'all's show with my husband, my manager, and we're discussing it.
Yes.
Because am I saying something new, Yama?
No.
Am I saying that we've been paid unfairly? Is this a new conversation, Yama?
No.
So if it's not new, why do we act like it is? And again, and I'm going to pass the phone off to my husband, but I just want to say to you, Brother Isaac, how much more does a black woman have to do before she gets that payday? And based off of what you're saying, we'll never get it.
I don't agree with that. I think the payday will actually happen. I just think it's about engagement. I think it's just
when you say it's about engagement, that sounds very intellectual. How many engagements do you do a year?
No, I don't mean by engagement. What I mean by now is companies like Netflix look at the metrics of what people bring, the conversation that they start. And that happens all the time.
You just didn't listen to what I told you.
No, you said...
The gentleman gave me the terminology of the anticipatory approach.
Yes.
When you say anticipatory approach, there is nothing algorithmic or numeric about that. It is purely subjective.
Yes.
I need you to listen again. He told me what Monique they would not include. He told me resumes and movies don't translate with Netflix. We use an anticipatory formula. For instance, because I share with him, how do you say that the queen of comedy, is worth $500,000? So essentially what you're saying to the black community is that Monique is worth 1/26th of what Amy Schumer is worth.
Not based off her resume,
Monique,
though.
So I would like to. I'm sorry.
do what it is that Amy Schumer did. I'm just trying to figure out, is that what you're saying, Brother Isaac? That makes sense to you?
No, what I'm saying is Netflix does not care about ratings. Netflix cares about subscribers and word of mouth engagement. So if Amy Schumer is a popular white comedian that has more engagement from a white populace that is probably maybe 65% of this country, she's going to get more money because she's going to drive more engagement.
But what I'm trying to say to you, good sir, is there is no numerical data that they're using. They are speaking subjectively, and you're normalizing
Netflix
the
is
rate.
not. Netflix
Because
is not
what
winging
happens
it.
is you cannot
They could
explain
be.
how. For example,
So look,
Monique,
we gotta
Samore, Monique, the Queens of Comedy, Wanda Sykes, and Cheryl Underwood are arguably 6 veteran legends in the comedic game. as you very well know, because Wanda Sykes has a different audience than Monique's. Typically, though hers is blended, she caters to more of a Caucasian audience. She was offered $250, less than half is what she said to Monique. And she thanked Monique for bringing it out because she didn't bring it up. She said she just moved on. Now, there's nothing wrong with her way, but had Monique not brought it up, we would have not known what transpired. Right. But I digress. Out of the 6 ladies that I'm speaking of, the collective Queens of Comedy, Wanda Sykes, Cheryl Underwood, if they were to get offered what Monique got paid, what I'm essentially saying to you, Brother Isaac, is that they collectively would get $3 million amongst the 6 veteran legends. And this one white lady is getting this. For a person to try and say that makes sense is to say that there's a level of love that we don't have for ourselves. Exactly. And if you're saying that that makes sense to you, that 6 of our black legends are worth.
I do.
Well, let me, because I'm sorry, Sidney, this is Heather, and I kind of disagree with my brother. So I agree with what he just said, and it's kind of before you called in. It's also that we don't support each other. And so if it's subjective, I thought that Netflix was specifically looking at numbers, bottom line. And so my issue with that was that then we're not supporting our own. Personally, to me, like I don't think we do. Personally, that's just my opinion, which is why is that why they're coming up with those numbers? Because again, you know, I wouldn't even say I would look at Monique's resume. The bottom line is I've seen her comedy specials and she's funnier.
When you say coming up with numbers, are you referring to the money that was offered as far as numbers? Because he said there is no numbers.
See, but I thought what I'm saying is it's the same with like we're saying on this particular platform they look at demographics and numbers as how many people are listening to us.
Well, he told you exactly how they were.
What I'm saying is our assumption was that Netflix did the same thing. So they were, not to say that anybody thinks it's right.
Well, let's not deal with what the assumption was. Let's deal with the facts are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if we focus in that realm, it will let you know that I believe we're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. Because if you're saying that we don't support one another, if they were basing it on numbers, now that you know that they're not, and it is subjective, let's support one another, because you can't explain to me how 6 of our black legends are worth $3 million collectively, but one white woman who said herself that she is not a legend is worth $12 million. And the gentleman, Robbie Praw, who is the vice president, said, I've got to admit it, Monique is a legend. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the question that I would ask is, well, if that's the case, how do you get, and let me put it in context. When they went out to see Monique, their statements in their reviews was, great show, an amazing show, because Monique got sold out, and it was a standing ovation. Now, when you have a resume, you can lose a step. It's kind of like you play a sport. You might have lost a step. I wouldn't take Jordan over the players in the NBA now, despite his resume.
Mm-hmm.
But if Jordan got on the court and was killing them, I have to take note.
Yeah.
Well, this sport that we're in is not a physical sport. Or, my apologies. This sport that comedians are in is not a physical sport as much as it is a mental sport.
Right.
And she's sharp, as the standing ovation had proved. Mm-hmm. So the question I would say is, how does her resume and 2 standing ovations on 2 different nights equate to $500,000?
Right.
I mean, I don't personally think it equates to that.
And you're using metrics for Amy Schumer that you would not use for Monique.
Yeah.
I asked him, how can you do that, he didn't have an answer. So it's one of those things where you can explain to certain people until you're blue in the face, they won't understand it,
right.
And that's okay. But it's due to the normalization of us as people of color of taking abuse and waiting for them to do right by us, because we waiting for Jesus on the other side to get to heaven. We're not looking to get it now, but the people who sold us on that then, they're getting theirs now.
I agree. Mm-hmm. You know what, Sidney, we're going to wrap this thing up. I want to, this is Keisha. I want to personally say thank you for speaking, and thank you, Mo. Thank you guys for calling in and just giving us the time of day. I know you guys have been talking about this till you blue in the face for like the last 2 weeks or so. And, and I also know that every time that you can, enlighten someone else or, speak, your opinion about the situation, if you can reach a few more people, then that's a job well done. I just want to appreciate you for calling in and taking the time to do that. I know you just got off the road and you just came back yesterday, but
Keisha,
thank you so much, Mo.
That, baby. And I want to address Brother Isaac, if I can, with some facts. Because, Isaac, you still here, baby?
Yes, indeed.
You know how when you say, well, Monique, you got an award for drama.
Mm-hmm.
So if they came to you and they dropped that on you for drama, we have a problem with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Oscar was for drama, right?
Yes.
Well, now I'm going to need you to explain Octavia Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Because she won an Oscar award for drama.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has to have our white sister, Jessica Chastain, which we appreciate, and we throwing the hands up for her saying, sister, thank you for being strong enough to say it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But Octavia Spencer, she has an Oscar award. Jessica Chastain is an Oscar nominee.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got to go in and fight for Octavia Spencer, who's won it for a drama.
Mm-hmm.
Twice the credit.
And has twice the credits of Sister Jessica.
I don't disagree.
But Jessica got to go in and fight for Octavia on their next film, which is a drama, to get paid. We're going to say more than what she was getting. How do you explain that, Brother Isaac?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with pay equality. I'm being specific to your specific situation because with your situation, there's room to deny you or to come back and give less. Whenever I deal with any business situation, right? Any situation where I try to accomplish any task, I start with the no's. Why can they tell me no? Netflix can say no because this is not drama, it's comedy. Netflix can say no because Dave Chappelle toured for 2 years and sold out, and we saw the amount of money that Live Nation said they made off him, and your numbers don't match Dave's numbers. We can say...
When does America say yes to the black woman?
I understand that, miss. I understand that. I totally understand that.
But the thing is that Netflix can say no for those reasons, but those are not the reasons that they did say no. You know what I'm saying? According to City, that's not what they gave. That's what.
Say that. It's like, again, Isaac, this is why we lose as a community, because you're trying to defend what makes no sense. See, that's the same thing they told Moms Mabley. You know the history. Your daddy's an icon. That's the same thing they told Eartha Kitt. That's the same thing they told Shirley Hemphill.
That's the same thing they told Millie Jackson.
That's the same thing they told Marsha Warfield. That's the same thing they told Thea Fadal. You know the history. So whenever has America stood up for the black woman?
Come through. On that note, I think that's the perfect way to wrap.
I just want to say thank you, Monique, for calling in. And I have one question, though. I'm sorry, y'all. I just have a question because when she was saying it, and Sidney also was saying, is that historically we have always felt like if we weren't the hottest thing right then, we weren't deserving. Even it didn't matter what we accomplished, because my father went through the same thing, for sure. He was an Oscar winner and he didn't have a hit album out, so we got to start at the bottom. Why do you think it is that we as African-American people accept it and are willing to, okay, well, I'll just start over and make my way back up, or work my way back up to where I was when you've already accomplished all these things? Because he did it. I know he did it. My mother told me he did it.
The way in which you train a flea is to put them in a jar, and despite how high they can jump, you put a lid on it, and they keep hitting the lid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they are not aware that they can't get out of that jar. Well, they're aware that they can't get out of the jar due to the lid. Now, when you take that lid off, they've been trained that they can't get out of the jar. Mm-hmm. So they don't even realize that the lid is off. Yep. And that happens to us in the sense that despite the fact that they say we were free, we're their invisible shackles, and we keep saying that's just the way it is because that's how it's always been,
that's right,
with no chart or course to say, how can I make a change? Because nobody wants to utilize their life as the one who went down for the cause but didn't reap the benefits for it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you've got to be courageous enough to reap the benefits for it. And I'm going to slide in here quickly because I wouldn't want to miss this moment. But Yama,
Yes.
You're tough because you from Baltimore. See, I know you, but you don't know me, I don't think, because we went to the same Old Court Junior High School.
Come through.
Oh, you
went to
actually
school
talking
with her,
about my sister.
And down in Twin Lakes. Okay, so I know you come from good genes because your sister tough. See, and I know
Yes,
y'all.
she
Y'all
is.
was
Yes, she
cute girls that
Shout out
was
to
down around
Deanna.
the way, but y'all ain't take no mess, and your sister didn't play. So you know how you got to carry it in Baltimore.
That right.
You
That's
might
right.
be cute, but you can't be a chump.
Nope.
And what Monique is essentially saying to the world is, listen, when you can't identify one black woman in the history of comedy that ever had an opportunity to be an Ellen, a Roseanne, a Rosie, a Richard Pryor, you have to say, wait a minute, is that coincidence or has it been conspired that way?
Yeah.
It's definitely been conspired that way. You know, it's been going on, and just like you said, our parents had to fight that fight several times to get where they,
The whole
get
time.
to that
The whole
level.
time.
Yeah, the whole time. And for what, I'm saying about this, if our people aren't going to boycott or we're not going to do anything, then we do lend ourselves to the Jessica Chastains and these other ladies who have to say something for us because our community won't.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's
You're
unfortunate.
exactly right, sis.
And that's
our community
unfortunate.
starts
Yeah. But it's
with us and our black men as
Yep.
the leaders of our community.
That's right.
And see, when I hear Brother Isaac, also when I hear some of my other brothers, you're not by yourself, Brother Isaac. There are other brothers saying, let me dissect this sister's resume.
Yeah.
Majority.
But the majority of the folks, and even though the folks you think are out of touch, it's something when a white man that's a strong Trump supporter say, let me run down your material for me, and he start doing my jokes. It's something.
Yeah. It
To
is.
my brother saying, let me dissect you. So this is what I would say to my brothers that's listening. We need y'all.
Yes.
And oftentimes, y'all question, Monique's husband is messing up her career. What is he doing? But again, I want to bring something to my sister's attention. When y'all read the story about Octavia and Jessica, you didn't read where Octavia's management and agents went in to fight for her. You read about our white sister going in to fight for her. And the reason why people have a problem with my husband standing with me, because it looks unfamiliar.
That's right.
So, Isaac, when you go back in history and you look at the sisters who had to take a stand, tell me the brothers that stood next to them proudly.
That's right.
And I thank y'all for y'all time.
Thank
my
you.
baby.
We're going to wrap
Thank
this up.
you,
We're gonna wrap this thing.
Monique.
I'm going to be like the Sandman.
it was definitely a
you, Mom.
learning
We
experience.
love y'all, my babies.
Thank you,
Thank
Mom.
Thank you, Monique, so much.
Thanks, Sydney.
And
Thank you.
we are so glad that we have been able to keep this conversation going, and that Monique has brought this to the forefront because, like she said, we talking about it.
Yeah, it is.
We're
That's right.
talking about it, and
Good talk.
hopefully we can do something about it and take it to the next level and not just talk. So right now we're gonna go out
Are we
with.
still doing a show?
Yes.
We still
Do
doing
we
the
still
show.
have a show?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna come back and do the reality roundup.
It's a 2-3 hour show. We ain't doing no show. We are out of here.
No, the show is not over,
The show must
sweetheart.
go. He's trying to go
We're
home,
gonna
y'all.
trying to go
go right
home.
now with A Peace with Woman by the Jones
A
Girls.
Peace
then
of
we'll
who?
be back.
At peace with woman.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Dang.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I didn't see the T.
I'm tired.
You're watching Soul Sisters